Morning. Good morning. I'd like to begin the October meeting of the Somerville Tree Protection Board. Today is Columbus Day, but it is also Indigenous Persons Day, not just in this country, but around the world. It's a noteworthy event to observe. Important folks were here before we were. First order of business is to approve the minutes for the meeting last. Is there any discussion about meeting minutes from last time?
I move to approve as submitted.
Second. All those in favor of approving the minutes, say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? Minutes are approved. Excuse me. First on the agenda is old business, and the first item is 100 Hampton Street.
Good morning,
Morning.
Mr. Chairman, board members.
Good morning.
First, thank y'all for carrying this over so we could look at it a little further. I've brought in some additional photos for you that show the trees. I've gone out and we measured from the base of the tree to the base of the building. Now, there is some overhang of the building up high, but I'm not climbing a ladder. The trees closest to the building are 72 inches, 68 inches, and 94 inches. If you look at the little packet I provided, you'll see that the tree on the first page is the one, excuse me, that is 72 inches. But given the angle of the tree and the way it's going up, it is much closer to the building at the top. To trim the tree or those trees, they're basically going to be sticks with something furry on top because of the way the limbs are going. The second one shows the canopy. You can see a little further back photo of the third photo there. The fourth is one from behind. And you can see that there's a general slant, but removing the trees, you won't be able to really, in the clumping of trees, be able to get in there and remove the stump. You're just going to create a rotten spot in time and have another problem down the road. Next is one looking straight up from the building. And again, these trees are on the property line. We believe they're my mother's trees, and I think that's the way we wrote the application, but I'm the adjoining landowner, so I join in her application. We didn't see the need to get a surveyor out there to see which one of us was responsible. Finally, the last photo is the single tree that is 10 feet, 4 inches. The tenant in my building would like to lease a portion of the property from my mother for his automotive business, which town council just approved. That would allow him to drive back around. Honestly, I can live with you're leaving that one and us trying to do a little bit of trimming for him, but I told him I'd ask, and I'll defer to y'all on this. I did take some time this morning as I was driving around. I'm born and raised here. My family's been in Somerville 200 years. I understand why the tree's sacred. The railroad used to own the town. That's why the pines were sacred, because they owned Pine Hill Acres. They owned Pine Forest. Now own the railroad man's house. But if you look from this block going back towards 78, you've got to go all the way to CPW to find a single pine tree. That tells me something, that it's not conducive with commercial. And we're not the first people to have this discussion. With it being automotive and the pine dropping on them, it's going to hurt it. I probably, with the exception of 2 or 3 people, own more trees in the town of Somerville than anybody. I'm not out there trying to clear cut something. I'm just trying to make this little area functional and not destroy the building. If you have any questions, I'd be happy to answer.
First is the building, is that on your mother's property?
The building is on my property.
Okay, the building's on your property.
Yes, sir.
So your mother's property is,
It wraps behind it.
okay, whose property is it that the camper that was there now is removed?
That is on my mother's.
Yeah, okay, I had that totally backwards. Not that it matters, and I agree with what you
If
said.
you look at the first photo,
Yep.
you'll see that there's a chain link fence post. The line is running somewhere in a couple feet area there, and the trees grew up along the property lines, what it looks like.
Okay, sure.
Somebody just neglected what was a scrub pine.
So when you mentioned that your brother,
No, my mother,
but somebody's son, your mother's son,
I'm her son. Yes. it
okay,
doesn't-
well, who is it that may use her lot for additional automotive?
We're trying to lease it, but we can't get, we've got to get past point A. The tenant who has mine would like to lease a portion of hers, that area behind, but I can lease it to him. He doesn't want it with the trees there. I'm concerned about the trees for my building.
I understand that.
And so we don't have, I can't tell you who's going to go into her property, but it's a 3-bay garage and has been automotive. Hoover Chrysler was originally
Right.
located there, if that gives you any time reference. So I would say it's been 40, 50 years that I know it's been automotive. I think it's a safe bet that it's going to be automotive. Town council had inadvertently downzoned it, and they just rezoned both of these properties because of the automotive history.
So then you're saying that in the area that doesn't have asphalt, but there's grass now only where the camper was removed, that is to, in the future, hopefully for you to be automotive?
Yep, the area in the back is, you saw that there was a camper there. That would probably be best described as a lay down yard, storage yard
Mhm.
for cars that are being worked on, been sold, waiting to be picked up.
Okay, well, so that would, if that happens, then that would predispose that property to only automotive use and not the planting of other trees to compensate for the ones that are being removed,
Yes, sir, you're right.
correct?
We even looked along the rear property line and see if one of them shows. They're just over our fence to the rear's a residential area
Mhm.
with some truly massive pines and oaks that overhang that area already. So the planting of anything in that area wouldn't grow. It's not getting any light back there.
Well, there's some, and there's alternatives that could happen. And the reason I mention this is this is one of the opportunities that you have. But let's first get a discussion of the trees on the site at the moment. Anybody?
I just want to make sure, I know it says removal of 7 pine trees.
And it seems like each time we go out there, we come up with 6 that are, significant trees. Is it actually 7 or is there one that's probably under the,
Yeah, I think, given the discussion last time, staff probably can answer better than I. We counted 7 out of an abundance of caution. If you look at the photo there, the one furthest back is the one I said that's 10 feet away.
right?
The others are all in that clump right there.
Okay,
The clump are concerned.
okay.
Yeah, I agree that with, that pine trees would be problematic around an automotive, enterprise. It's going to be sales or repair or both? Or you don't know?
It's sales and repair in the little building now. I would anticipate it would be something consistent with
With that?
that.
Yeah, I hate the thought, you know, of removing so many trees in one fell swoop like that. But I do see that they could be problematic, and so I think, Mr. Chairman, that I can agree to permit the removal provided the proper mitigation is done, whether it's on this site, and if this site isn't appropriate, I think staff, is it correct that that donations could be made to the tree bank?
Yes,
Yeah. Mr. Is it possible? I'm engaged in discussions in the Brownsville community, which is not far from here, about donating a tract of land to the town for a park. Possible to incorporate that.
I think that's beyond our purview.
yeah,
isn't it?
I wouldn't be able to answer that. Staff would have to answer that, and
Certainly
That-
sounds nice, though.
yeah.
Okay.
Okay, because the other option is, as Danny was getting to, is because with the current use and status of the property, any trees removed without the need for construction need to be replaced inch by inch. Well, in our mind, we didn't realize at this point that this land was going to be turned, the desire was to turn this into a more automotive use, and granted, there's a lot of overhanging shade. The ordinance still requires that some measure of planting be done. Wouldn't be inch for inch because there's no room for that kind of stuff. Your offer goes far and well beyond that. And
Bank or what required health interventions I could require for them.
It's basically inch per inch for a ram tree, so it's 9 inches. It's a branch tree, but it's the easiest example I can get is if you cut down a 9-inch tree, it's increments of 3 inch tall. That's each inch of each tree.
What are the rules? I know Dorchester County has some. I did not find them in the UDO, but I'm sure they're there. When it comes to trimming the trees, what are the rules there? Dorchester County limits you to a very short height of canopy tree.
they limit you to what,
On canopying a tree,
right?
if it gets too costly, wow, I'm not crazy about skinning them going all the way up. Is there a height limit on the canopy?
There's a percent limit
20%.
and no topping.
I meant just leaving the top. I understand.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
20%.
20%, no more than 20% of the tree can be pruned.
And that begins where the growth starts.
Yes, so yeah, overall life.
I don't know whether you want to wait more. I think it's truly worth looking into the offer of the donation for that land to become a park, particularly if there's trees on it.
It is.
I-
So West Second Street, down there, All's Lane,
Down there, what?
down here, All's Lane. That's one of the cross streets.
Okay, I'm sorry, I don't even know that one.
Yeah, that's a great alternative if the town can accept it. I mean, Sounds like this board would be willing. to
Yeah.
accept that.
Absolutely. And that is in the town.
Yes, sir.
Okay.
I would rather get a good resolution and not race to it. So again, I'm going to ask y'all to carry me over for another month. And we'll engage in conversations with staff as well as the conversations involved.
Very good. Do I have a motion?
So move.
Second.
All
Okay.
I'm usually drinking coffee now.
All those in favor of the motion, say aye.
Uh,
Opposed? Motion passes. We'll see you in a month, sir.
Thank you.
To compromise with all these things.
Next order of business is 116 East Walker Drive. I understand, well, there's nobody here for that property, I assume. And I understand there was considerable discussion that the owner could not come today, but dearly wished to. I don't know whether the agreement could be made on site. That we defer this another month. So how about some
wanted to.
input?
He wanted to delay it and reapply next month.
Was he going to reapply?
Yes.
Either reapply or amend his current application to reflect more accurately precisely which trees are a priority.
Right.
All right,
We told him that when we were on site that we could not determine reason. He couldn't just have a carte blanche to remove all the trees. Needed to give us reason, and that he needed to engage a certified arborist to help him make that determination. So he asked to defer for a month or that he would reapply, either one.
so I'll rephrase that as a motion that we're going to offer to defer this for one more month to hopefully get information on certified arborist as well as an exact number of trees that wish to be removed.
I second that motion.
All those in favor of the motion?
Aye.
All opposed? Motion passes. Move to new business. 102 Brad Street.
Good
Morning.
morning.
Just tell us what you wish.
So just got three, well, I've got probably 10 trees on property. In the backyard, kind of rolling in the front. I got 4 in one section, trying to move the 2 out the middle. So kind of, let the other, 2 around and kind of flourish and fill out. And then on the other side, I've got 2 more, I guess some of them got approved to be pulled out. So we're only talking about 3 that we it's just kind of filling the yard in, but I don't really have entertainment space and have a large family. Yeah, everybody kind of but it's behind my yard. So I've got a bunch of trees in the area, probably 15 trees with the ditch in the back and going along the side of the house. I just wanted to take a few out to. So one in the front yard has roots that are coming towards the water line and just popping up out of the ground. Not trying to clear my lot, I'm just trying to make more room for sunshine.
Okay. Cabinets.
Yeah, the tree in the front yard, I found to be quite healthy and I certainly, I don't see a cause to remove it. In the backyard, I did see the justification for removing the water rope that's on one side that has a cavity at about, I think it's about shoulder heights as I recall. And also the maple on the other side that's not in great shape. But I do not, but the pine that was also requested, I found to be quite healthy. So I could certainly vote to approve the removal of the water rope and the maple tree, but no to the others was my taking.
And I agree with that.
Yeah, likewise. Have you considered doing any trimming, maybe to help with the sunlight?
It just seemed like they were just kind of growing on top of each other, like they were just trees, but it looked like they were planted, it looked like there was something that sprouted up that nobody really maintained. I just bought the house 8 years ago.
Right.
The one on the other side is like growing right along the fence line, so it's gonna start pushing the fence at some time, so I just thought that maybe it might have been an option, but, and just, you see all the trees that are, around it in that area, so, so got plenty of trees in the area for shade and everything.
When you get those 2 trees out that Nick had approved, it's gonna make a big difference in the way you see the property. It will make a difference. You might want to wait until you get those out and look at, because it will. You'll be pleased, I think.
And certainly we can reconsider in the future, as Faye's indicating, especially the one that's the pine tree that's near the fence. If indeed it should ever begin to encroach upon the fence, then
You see the bottom root base right there is all, it's already, encroaching on the fence right there. All right, and I'm looking at having to replace the fence soon. Got dogs busting through.
Right.
Fighting, so,
no, that's
end up cutting the fence around it.
that's a valid point. It's a valid point.
There's no room to move the fence further back. I know it's probably just prolonging the inevitable.
I guess I'd have to get the land survey to see where the actual line's at, when we're moving it into the neighbor's yard. That's the side yard right there. So
Yeah.
So that's not my property. Take over their yard, that's what I'll need to do about it.
All right.
Right,
Yeah,
yeah.
I wouldn't want to do that.
Like you said, survey would take care of that, would clear it up. And more information is always good. More information is always good.
Let me ask another question. I know we weren't asked to look at this particular tree, and I'm trying to remember, maybe the folks who are out there, the oak in the backyard, the very back. Were there some issues there that might need to be looked at with that tree? Yeah.
I have had, that's been dropping some pretty large size branches. I wasn't sure if that was from the tree being unhealthy or not.
It's,
I didn't know if one tree was more valuable than the other. I just thought about it might be valuable. I just, with the 2 trees being side by side, to me, it seemed like one was choking the other out and it was kind of blowing. I guess honestly, if you thought the fruit tree needs to go for something to find it in the bottom, there's just like 2 of them like this.
right. I'm not saying the oak tree would need to be removed, but it certainly needs to be, I keep your eyes on it just to make sure if it's dropping branches and maybe something later on you can apply to have it removed if it continues to decline.
Species.
Yeah.
Water.
Mhm. Nick, you recall anything about that tree? One way or the other?
I didn't do a full inspection of it.
Yeah.
But it shows signs of decay.
Just
It's about as big as water. Yeah.
right. But I would just keep an eye on it, and if you start seeing,
Do you think that we could move, you're saying it's showing signs of decay, we were in there. I just wanted to, if we leave the pine, can you take that water look out?
If you apply for it separately, I would probably be able to purchase capital. That way it's not on the tree board. If you wanted to reapply for that water. I'll take a closer look at it.
No, sir, not the one in front. It really is very healthy.
yeah, it's a nice looking tree.
Oh, well, let's go ahead. Do I have a motion?
Yeah, I move to grant removal of the water oak and the maple in the backyard and not any of the pines.
Second.
Second, it.
All those in favor of the motion? Opposed? Motion passes. And do get back about the other oak tree
Okay,
adjacent to the pine.
no, I appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you. 105 Towering Pines Drive. Good morning.
I have 6 trees that I have applied for. My biggest concern was that the 3 in it's in the backyard. And the ones that have a larger limbs coming towards the house, they're leaning towards the house. Very concerned about that, of course. And we have 2 that are leaning not totally towards the neighbors, but at an angle. They're leaning towards back here. And that's basically, you know, why I would like to have them moved. We have a thorn. I have seen these trees moving with the house and a lot of limbs falling out. Basically, noticed, what is it, 6 and 4, the ones that have the big old limbs. If I recall, that face my house. And 1 and 2, they're like in an angle. Again, our concern is, you know, again, the house, protecting the house.
All right. Observations, discussion? Right?
well, they have been there. I'm not sure how old those trees are that you want to have removed, but they have stood there through lots of wind and they're still there. And they have strong root systems. And you can prune some, but because you've got that many trees there, they tend to be skinny and reaching up for the sun. It's a normal thing to have happen. And pine trees are good at natural pruning and dropping those lower limbs that die back. That's just the natural thing to happen. Is nature, the nature of a pine tree. So you just one of those things you just need to be on top of and pay attention to. And if those lower branches need to be pruned, then you can do that without them dropping on anything or worrying about that. It's just something you need to pay attention to, though. And that's just the nature of pine.
Okay.
So the pruning of those, in other words, if I was to have them trimmed, which I'm thinking of doing, if I can't take them down, you will notice that most of the branches are facing towards the house. And they're pretty long. So my point is that if I take those out, it's not gonna be very much left of the tree when it comes to branches.
Well, as you heard earlier, there are limits to the amount of percent of crown that you can remove. And so, but as much as anything, I think Faye was probably talking about as large limbs appear to be giving it up, to be senescing, dying, truly get them before you wait and they break off in a storm or something else. As far as live limbs, you would have to get a good recommendation on what would be relevant and not too excessive for the individual trees, but let's see if we have other discussion.
Right, I agree that with Fay and the chairman, that pruning, certainly some good knowledgeable pruning would help, and there's no need to prune a limb that's healthy and has good structure, a tree that is dead or unhealthy or dying, certainly that's one that you remove and, you know, and you can look at this every 3 to 4 years or so and have it done. It's not something that you have to do a couple of times a year. In my estimation, in addition to some printing that could be done, I can agree to permit the removal of, in this picture, tree 1 and tree 3. There's tree 1 has a significant dog leg or bend. It doesn't show it in this picture. I guess it's right in here, in the area where a pine tree might break off. So I can see removing 1, and 3 is part of a codominant. They're growing close at the base, and it too seemed to have some. No, that's not. Excuse me. Is it 1 and 3? Yeah, 1 and 3. So that's not the codom.
Was it 4? That was the codominant. You recall, Nick, which one 4?
It almost looks like number 2 is.
Yeah, it looks like 2 was. So and it may be that I was thinking that 2 and then the one behind it. And that was my thinking, that what we're seeing is number 2 and the one behind it, number 3. And that's the one I thought could be removed. And then, of course, you can remove anything on your lot that is under 8 inches in diameter. That's gonna, and that may help the, get more sunlight to the trees and help them to branch out. Part of the issue with the reason these trees are so tall and skinny and have most of their crowns at the top is the wooded buffer behind you is not letting the sunlight in that would stimulate growth on the bottom. But that's not really a health issue. But did we determine what? Is Nick here?
Yeah, he's over there.
Nick, is the tree behind number 2, is that the one that, I'm sure that's the one I was thinking about that had, yeah, right there. Yeah,
I'm not sure. I didn't assess that tree.
because it wasn't applied for. Okay,
Well, I had tree number 1, the tree with the birdhouse on it,
right.
as being one that has some structural issues. And also, I don't know if we can look at the top, 3 or 4, there was a dog leg over there, I thought, but I don't think we go up high enough. Well, maybe we did. Yeah, that's fine. It's the tree number 5. So I had 5 and 1. Because of structural issues, I'd be okay having those removed. And also it would allow more light in there for the other trees that are left behind to hopefully, thrive a little bit better. Yeah, I can tell you do.
We enjoy the blessings in many types of birds that come in. And it's just, it's a nice time to see. But I just was concerned, my wife and I, about our house.
We understand. We hear this all the time. I sometimes worry about my house, which is all around it. Any more discussion?
Well, only to say, to see if I can help to allay any real fears that you might have about protecting your house, which is of course, something that you want to do. Pine trees are much more resilient than people give them credit for. They get a bad rap mainly because of what happened during Hurricane Hugo. But our winds are not like they were during Hurricane Hugo. When we look at trees that might be endangering property or life, that's one of the main things we're looking for. My experience tells me that at this point in time, you really don't have, I would not have major concerns about the trees that I suggest leaving. Now, pine trees and all trees they're living organisms and they require maintenance. And so from time to time, you may need to bring in an arborist to prune or to reassess. But I feel comfortable recommending that your safety is intact and the safety of your house is intact based upon my experience with trees this close to a property. So I agree, Mr. Chairman, with Claude that I could recommend the removal of number 1 and number 5, is it, Claude? Yeah, and number 5. And then anything under 8 inches, of course.
And then trimming of the other.
Trimming of the others as,
And if you've got dead limbs, certainly get those out,
Yes.
because they're not coming back.
Well, every time we have a storm, we just have lots of limbs coming back.
Do they have green needles on them and they're not just the dead?
Some,
Okay.
but most of the other ones are just pretty much rotted out.
Okay, well, they could have been removed prior to that, not now, hopefully you can, and so that'll be the proactive kind of maintenance to certainly minimize damage to the house or people as dead branches fly in a storm.
And pine trees sway. This is, you say, oh, the wind blowing. This is just what they do. And it's nice that they are that flexible and they're not going to break like some other trees
Yes.
would. This is good.
Okay, do I have a motion?
Danny put a motion, I second.
All those in favor of the motion, say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? 1 and 5, and keep them clean.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you for your time.
If
You
you
too.
need to reapply, you can do that.
Thank you.
And lastly, we have 408 Parkwood Drive. No representative for Parkwood Drive, and I know that was quite a discussion piece. I did not visit that day. I've seen the picture. The picture probably looks worse than what the tree looks like, or is that an unfair assessment?
Yeah, pretty
it's
close.
pretty accurate.
Thank you.
Yeah.
So take it away.
Well, at Parkwood, certainly that's a challenging question for people who care about the property. Unquestionably, the pine tree at Parkwood needs to be removed and it should have been done before. We had a long discussion about the oak tree. And we recommended to the property owners that they have a certified arborist come inspect this tree and see if there is if an arborist would recommend a remedial process to bring the tree back. The tree has definitely suffered from the construction that went on there. It looks like roots were cut, et cetera, and perhaps even it's possible that the root plate has lifted on the side where the roots were cut. But I can't swear to that without a real inspection of the root system. A certified arborist could do that. We recommended that they do that. And if the price to put together a program like that is amenable to them, then they proceed that way. If not, we could consider removing the tree. I mean, it is a 50-50 shot in my mind. But having thought about that, because over the course of the weekend, since we looked at that, even if they don't do the remedial process, I mean, I had to put myself in their shoes. If this were on my property, that is such a statement live oak for the front of that property. And the 2 live oaks and the properties on either side of it are just stunningly gorgeous, iconic live oaks. Anyway, if that were my live oak, even before I removed it, I would wait until spring to see how it flushes out, see what happens. So with that in mind, my recommendation would be to permit removal of the pine, but not the live oak at this time. And certainly they can reapply come May or so if it doesn't leaf out or if it begins to decline further.
You making that as a motion?
So I move that we approve the
You got
removal
it.
of the
He's
pine
got
tree.
it.
You got it?
Yeah,
Okay, good.
All those in favor of the motion?
Aye.
Aye. All those opposed? Motion passes.
The pine tree had a large injury that was, and you could easily assume that begun during construction. So if that same person that was doing that could have excuse me, damaged somehow this live oak. You almost think that it happened at the same time or close to the same time.
Does anyone know if it's the original owner?
I do not. I mean, it's a brand new house on it and it looks like the area was undeveloped. It appears that the area was undeveloped. The house is brand new.
But you know, there were some other trees in that development, if that's what you want to call it all, it looked like they were under stress also. So I'm not sure when the site work was done, if tree barricades and all that were really in place and whoever did the site work paid attention to that and didn't get too close to these, you know, to the nicer trees. I just don't know.
Right, well, the owner, one of the owners told Faye told me that she didn't recall any tree protection around that live oak.
Hmm.
And this is a recent house and if that's true, that's inexcusable for whoever might have assigned it to be there. Or number two, they took it down because it was inconvenient and put it back up again, which happens a lot. I am understanding. When it's inconvenient, you just take it away, and Bill used to tell me all kind of stories about that. So that's, that's really unfortunate, it's
It
so
is.
who dropped the ball on that one? Again, because of the tree that it is.
Right.
Anyhow,
It would have been interesting to see that tree before they built.
yeah,
And it may be just so that the board is clear that those people, the applicants thought that we were saying we'll reconsider once you get the an appraisal from a certified arborist and that they will come back next month. I mean, that's a possibility. I just want to prepare.
sure. Well, it's pursuant to this, really.
I think this is also a good opportunity. We talk about how resilient trees are. This will be a good indicator of what this live oak can actually be put through and still survive, especially under a good program to kind of rejuvenate the roots and all that were damaged. So I can't wait to see how this turns out.
Yep, I'm interested too.
Yeah, this could be a learning experience for all of everyone.
That's right, exactly. Okay.
I didn't apply to ask, but I just wanted to come see what the board did as well as I live. Can I approach?
Sure.
I live in Pines of Gehagen and I moved there because I very much love the pines and I love trees, period. I don't know what the town's policy is for removing trees, but I have noticed that several of my neighbors have had, I'm assuming, authority from the town to remove some of the pine trees, which has, in one instance, has affected my property, it's affected the shade of my property. And we have another house that is now applying to have 5 trees removed. And so I just wanted to come to the meeting to see what you all went through and who you spoke with. We usually have Planet Green comes in and does our trimming for us. I was the president of the board and we had Planet Green come in and trim back a bunch of our trees, which that are on common property, which we really needed to have done for the health of not only the trees, but we wanted to keep trees on the common property. So I really wanted to just come and see what the process was, what our neighbors had to go through in order to get the trees removed, and what some of us needed to do to try and not get the trees removed. So, so now I see that Each homeowner, I'm assuming, has to come here.
Remy,
What do you file? Is it
Only if they're denied at the staff level, then they go before the committee. If
Oh,
they're
okay.
approved at the staff level, they don't.
and go right back as far as how you apply initially on the internet.
Yeah, we do have an online application. So the property owner can either go to our website or come to our office in person any time of the day. We don't have someone available. To put in the application, it's very simple. You just put your name, your address, contact info, the number and species of trees you're looking to. Then they mark the trees they're looking to have, and Nick comes out and does an initial assessment. If they are dead, diseased, or dying, that's the criteria for staff approval. Nick can approve it right then and there. If they are questionable or they're land trees, very large trees, the board takes a look at it. But an application is required for any tree, any species greater than 8 inches diameter, say, which is about 4 feet off the ground. And that's kind of the gist of it. But we always have people available in the planning department to answer questions. If you call the planning department number, you'll get me, and I'm pretty much always available to take a phone call. So if you have any situation where you're not totally sure how to proceed, feel free to call anytime, and I'm happy to advise.
Great. And where are the minutes on the website for this committee?
They're under, if you go under the government heading, under agendas and packets, if you go there and scroll down to the bottom, tree protection board is at the bottom.
Well, one question to both of you. Are you aware of applications, permit application in this neighborhood currently?
Go down that OLCR.
I was just wondering if she's witnessing, illegal tree cutting.
I know they go through the process because the board is very particular about getting the town's approval as well
Okay.
as, seeing the copy of the town's approval as well as.
Oh, really? Oh, okay, that's good. Oh, you're covered.
And we've been out there to look at some of the trees that someone had applied for, filled out the application for a permit. And some of the, or one of the backyards particularly was smaller than some of the other backyards. And it was close, it was tight, and everything is different though, everything is original. And so you can't take these blanket rules, you have to go see.
Yeah, absolutely.
And value all of them.
And thank you so much for your.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you for your interest.
Pines, the oaks.
Everything.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right. Staff members, what's up now? Are we to initiate this? I never bothered asking about the nature of our discussion that's in the agenda.
I guess we'll have that come up here. But it's basically just general discussion on the urban forestry master plan and any suggestions. Really, it's kind of time for broad suggestions as far as what the town can do better for.
Well, all the suggestions are here. Written rather well and all of them involving a considerable addition of staff in some cases. I read it, I hadn't looked at it in a while, but I read it over last night and it's one of these things that, okay, where do we dig in and get started? You get that feeling?
Well, yes, but I don't know where the town is in that, where they're dug in at.
We're not dug in, that's why there's
Well, no,
speculative questions. Well, or
I understand,
some.
but they've got this plan. So yeah, I think staff needs to tell us, well, we're here. Where do we go next? Because it's,
Right.
it's pointless. Well, I mean, I don't, this is a great thing, but we need to know how realistically, how the town is going to react to suggestions. Are they really going to, do they have the backing politically of
Mhm.
council to do something?
That's the digging in I'm thinking about.
That's
and
right.
Whatever involved.
Exactly. Where are
have
we
to.
dug in? Where are we dug in? And can this board help, move council for funding? Then that's what we need to know. Or do we set up a subcommittee of this board or a separate board to do something? I mean, I just don't know. It depends on where town wants to go.
I know that, it's still early in the process of development. It's only received, initial approval from council in the sense that council has approved the idea that we may implement.
With a resolution, right?
Yeah,
Yes.
Right.
so there's nothing concrete in firm yet, and it's still the point where edits are being made to the master plan, based on recommendations of staff and now recommendations of the report. So nothing in the plan is totally set in stone yet, which is why I think Jesse felt this would be a good time to give recommendations from the report. Because there's a time to edit the plan, the time is now.
Yeah, I agree. I think it's just, everything to me, looks good on paper, but trying to implement this, I know it talks about trying to put up a line item in the budget and all this. When all that can occur, I guess it's maybe next year would be the earliest. I don't know, but it's just something, you ride through Somerville and the adjoining areas and see all the trees that are coming down. We need to get something implemented sooner than later. So I think that's the thing. It's just the time frame when all this can actually be done and acted upon. But I think everything in here that I could tell, I mean, it looks good. I think it's a good start to a good plan.
I agree with that, but it seems to me that it's just about time to be proactive rather than wait. And and I'm not sure where if I'm correct, maybe I'm not correct, maybe we still need to wait longer, but my sense is that anytime you can be proactive, it can be helpful. But here again, I just don't know where we are in the process and where staff is and what the recommendations would be for dealing with the political administration.
I'd like to find a way to work with or around Dominion and what they do to our trees. Some of the trees that we have that we love, I'd really rather they just take them down than to leave them so brutalized. That's about the way I feel about it. They're no longer attractive. And so why leave something that is in that bad a shape? And that's what they have done is way beyond 20% pruning.
Yeah.
Is there a way that we can work with or around through somehow that?
I mean, they have certain state guidelines and they have to follow in terms of pruning. Yeah, I mean, they have certain guidelines they have to follow, they have to do it 10 feet. I mean, we can work with them to ask if they can do it on a more frequent basis. That's the issue. The reason they're pruning so much is because they only do certain areas every 5 years. And so instead of, pruning a foot or two, if they did it every 2 years, they end up pruning, 10 feet or more to get back to where.
But-
technically meets their requirements for being 10 feet from the lines.
But if they do it, I'm sorry, I interrupted.
I was gonna say, sometimes it's even more because sometimes they actually aren't doing it properly and going back to the proper place where you should prune it rather than just cutting in the middle of it. So sometimes it actually looks worse than.
Right. But in truth, if they want to get 10 feet, it doesn't matter if they do it every year or if they do it every 5 years. 10 feet is 10 feet. It's going to be at 10 feet. And so I worked on this quite a bit. I mean, as Jesse knows, and when I was working and they The issue is not a technical issue. It's not an arboricultural issue because their pruning cuts, as Jesse is indicating, are absolutely correct. They are right on target and just as they should be. They are absolutely as they should be most of the time. The problem is a political issue. Yeah, I mean, it simply is, and that they claim, as SCE&G claimed, that they must have, help me here, that they want 10 feet to each, no, they want, Dominion now wants 15 to 20 feet to the sides, right?
I didn't hear that.
I mean, they told us that the minimum.
Is the
Yeah, I
minimum.
mean, of course, they prefer more, but.
And 15 to 20 feet to the top, and then they want, my recollection of their website is, and then 10 feet to the bottom. Well, there are a lot of arborists who work for utility companies who say that you really don't need anything underneath the neutral because it's not going to affect anything. But they do that for safety's sake, and they're going to do, a utility is going to do what the governing
It's an ANSI standard. I forget the number.
it is not a standard.
Right.
It is not a standard.
I talked with,
This is their requirement.
This is their requirement.
well, there is an ANSI standard as well that apparently,
They
what's
go
his name
beyond
with
that.
Dominion, and I have met multiple discussions with, said that they follow this particular standard nationwide, and it didn't matter what kind of tree it was or where it was.
They're-
which
they're-
That's a problem.
No, my research is that there is no national standard for, there's no standard as, for clearance. It depends
Yes.
upon,
The standard they're following is the ANSI 300 pruning
Right.
standards, if you go back to the next, junction rather than,
Mhm.
that's the standard he referencing, he says they follow. that.
Not a distance standard.
it's not a.
No,
difference.
but your point is well taken about,
Right.
Right.
For safety reasons and to minimize outages.
oh, sure, and I think your idea about more frequent would be relevant because then the visible level of destruction is not so politically offensive.
To the same point, but yeah, it wouldn't look quite as
Right.
drastic.
There's no question in my mind that would be good,
But I
but they're
don't
not gonna
think
do
it's
that.
all phase issues. Still, the trees.
Right.
That are gonna be.
Yeah, some of those trees that, yeah.
Still gonna be, I mean, they're still gonna look
Right.
ridiculous.
And we have to think past aesthetics as well. I mean, certainly aesthetics is a major part of our thinking. But even if a tree has been, if they've done that traditional V cut that we all hate so much,
Hmm.
or even if they sidewall it, which I hate probably more, it's the tree is still, can still, especially, and the trees can still perform vital environmental functions. It's trapping air, it's cooling, it's doing all those sorts of things. So the question is, are we better off just removing the tree and doing without the trees, or are we better off in the long term having half a canopy? Those are decisions you have to make.
Not that I have a lot of knowledge, I'm not sign off on it.
I mean, the only ones we generally allow them to just remove instead of prune are the ones that are literally having the top.
Right.
Like these pine trees that were out here on Main Street. After the third time that they topped them, so it's just
Right, but
continuing to top.
But there are a lot of people who feel the same as Faye expressed, that they would rather just remove them than deal with it. And what I'm suggesting is you really have to think about it hard, because it's not an easy issue. And I've been accused of being a utility apologist, and I swear to you, I'm not. I'm just trying to share what the science absolutely is. And the fact of the matter is, if you want to be able to go home and cut on your computer, they've got to do this. But the question is, how reasonable do they have to be? I don't think they need to be as drastic as they do. And that was, I wrote a recommendation that was not accepted, but that the 7 feet below the neutral, 10 feet to the sides, and 12 to 15 feet in the top. Dominion fought that and they won, but it wasn't but it was because local governments have a vested interest in keeping the electricity running. And they defer to the utilities for lots of reasons, but so,
I mean, hopefully, I mean, the idea is to eventually underground,
Mhm.
obviously, at least the major roadways, which is a funding issue primarily. And of course, all our new neighborhoods. are
Right.
underground. Don't deal with it, newer neighborhoods, it's the older areas of town that could deal with most of that. But yeah, I mean, we technically meet with Dominion every January to go over where they're pruning in town for that year, talk about. And they do, they do contact us for individual trees if it's one of those where it seems like it needs to just be taken down. They do contact us before they do that. And then they do let us know if individuals have significant concerns about the pruning of their trees, that they will listen to those. And be less drastic.
You gotta be standing out there when they come.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, you gotta be
It's
there,
just
yeah.
said and done.
You can't be
We'll
there.
make sure they remember, but, so they try to work with us. But yeah, I mean, they have their standards that they follow and they hire the tree company to follow those standards. So I mean, unless we had somebody out there with them, we would not know that you're gonna make a difference there. I think the idea for us is hopefully to try to identify funding sources to get more lines on the ground.
Is there any, I know they were talking about trying to do some of that around Sumter Avenue and sounded like it was gonna start this fall.
Charleston Street.
Yeah, Charleston Street. Has there been any progress with that? Mhm.
That's something that's of my head in terms of
Yeah.
talking about South Main Street
Right.
and, yeah, historic areas of town where you have the more significant tree cover, that gets impacted. I don't know where that stands.
Mhm. I know that can be kind of frustrating at times because there's always talk about doing that, but it takes forever for it to actually happen. So.
Right. 'Cause it is a significant thing.
Mhm.
Last time I heard it was right around the corner when I talked to Ricky.
Well, that's what I said, I mean, they've been talking about it for years.
I know.
don't know when it will ever actually forward. But I guess my thought process with having this on your agenda is trying to get maybe kind of a priority list of what we want to pursue first. Because obviously, we don't have the staff, manpower, or funding to immediately
Mhm.
address everything on this list. We would like to eventually get to them, but I mean, my thought process was trying to get y'all's input into, what you wanted us to focus on first. And then, so that we could have a game plan, so we're not just kind of floundering, trying to pull ourselves in 8 different directions. So that was really my thought process with having this on the agenda. So I don't know if y'all have any, honestly, I didn't give you that information, so you maybe haven't thought of it in that way, but if anything stuck out to you as what we could pursue first, or at least begin pursuing, I know they certainly recommended some changes to our ordinance. That's something we could start looking at that doesn't require any funding.
Mhm.
That at staff level. And then obviously all of those would probably come to y'all first for input before we move it forward to the regular.
The
review
council,
process.
the councils.
But, in terms of, I mean, obviously, having a full tree inventory of our public trees is a big ask on this list, which is a big cost or time. We try to do it without contracting it out. It's gonna take a lot of time and manpower. We do contract it out, it takes a bit of money to do it, a full
Mhm.
tree inventory. Particularly if you're doing one that actually has the assessment of the trees in it. It's kind of what you need to make it, useful. So I just didn't know, I know the urban, the South Carolina Forestry Commission has another round of grants coming up. Don't know that we'd be able to get another grant since we've already had one with them. But now that we do have the master plan, we kind of have the support for moving forward with additional. That was just my thought process here, and I know we talked about replanting, and that's something we'd like to try and figure out as well. Obviously, our budget year here at the town is July to June. So we've already got our budget set until the end of June, so it's not really something we can ask for this year, but we would like to have, actual money identified for planting trees that isn't just what we get from the tree club. And also identify we have the priority planting analysis that we got from this project. I think what I'd like to do is have us do more of a workshop type thing where we look at that priority planting analysis and kind of see even within that priority where we want to focus on first. Size the priority list, and then work that way. There's a number of grants for tree planting. So, but I think most of them need to have a plan in place and not just say, yeah, we want to plant trees. You know where you want to plant,
Yeah.
how we're going to do it. So I would like to, if y'all are amenable to it, maybe schedule a workshop to discuss that, have a big map, printed out for different areas, kind of focus and see where we think we can make the biggest difference in the most efficient manner.
Yeah, well, if there's money for that, that's probably the single most thing we can get started. Again, it needs organization, but, and a plan for sure, but just go grab the trees and start, a detailed plan and.
And I mean, we do have some money, obviously, from the tree mitigation fund, we do have some money, we just don't have a huge amount, but I mean, we have money to get started on. So I think that's why I'd like to schedule a workshop in the near future, because obviously we're getting to the prime planting time.
Right.
So I just want to make sure that's something y'all are willing to do, sit down and basically look over the map and see where we think we want to start, what, type of species would work best in that area, that type of thing, and it's gonna be something that we can look at. So any feedback on that, appreciate it.
Well, certainly I'm happy to participate in that. I suspect that everybody would be. So I think the answer to that is yes, we would be glad to do that. Are we, you and I have talked about this throughout the years, and are we at a point where this board or some other group, committee is ready to start making recommendations, I mean, as voting citizens to council about being serious about this plan?
Yeah, I mean, I think we certainly can. I think it would help to have, I mean, obviously, y'all as a board is great, and I think they, already know y'all fully support the plan.
Right.
But having other board from outside entities, whether it be, other groups that.
Yeah, that's kind of where I was going with this. I mean, would we be more? Would we have more leverage if it is a subcommittee of this board where we invite other citizens to be involved, or should it be a separate committee, or should it be something like, the old Charleston Trees group that, and I'm looking at a group that, the Charleston Trees group was strictly to raise funds for the planting of raise private funds for the planting of trees on public property. And it would, and it was a 501c3. And I know now that the Parks and Rec Department has a group that can do that, if I'm correct. To do that in addition to advocating for just good municipal forestry practices to the town. So I don't know if it should be that group, this, somehow another phase of this board, or what's the best way to approach it?
Yeah, I'm not sure the best way to approach it. I think what you're getting at is our recommendation number 6, which
Yeah.
is leverage public and stakeholder support for trees.
Yep.
And it talks about extending duties and distributing forest to food advocacy, urban forestry operations, and building a coalition of public and private partners.
Yep.
To guide implementation. No, that's a good question. And
I mean, and we have to, I have to look to staff to advise on that, because I certainly wouldn't want a new mayor and council to say, well, that's just a bunch of, sappers and tree hugging folks that want to do something. I want them to, I would want for them to know that we are serious and we have leverage and we have some knowledge and expertise in this. And they should be listening, not just something that they want to hold at bay. So if this is not the appropriate time to begin that, then let's not do it. But if it's I would rather be emergent than wait. If it's time to start enlisting the help of other folks, then we can do that and start discussing who would be a good corollary.
good time to start the discussion. Obviously, I think, so that we want to move forward with anything until we get the new political landscape in place, just to know,
Mhm.
who we're working with, rather than starting with one group and then
Having to switch
start
what,
over again. But yeah, I think now is certainly the time to try and build that coalition. I know, one of the groups they talk about here is the Master Gardeners. I know they have volunteer hours they have to use. That could be a group that we reach out to. The Parks Foundation, could, speak to that board to see, whether they'd be willing to have, whether it's some type of subcommittee of their group or something like that, that focuses on tree within the town, particularly parks, obviously. And there's certainly other groups that we could work with. And we just have to, we've got to try to start that coalition building. So I don't know if there's a way, I don't know the best way to start that. I've never honestly been involved in the start of something like that. I could certainly reach out to, like Joelle or somebody like that who's done that somewhere else and seen like, or Jenny, I'm sure how.
we started the Charleston trees, and it depends what happens in Greenville with Joel. We're talking about Trees Greenville, which is a very successful organization. What they do is different from what Charleston Trees did, and so this needs to be tailored to Somerville and the sort of the zeitgeist of the folks here. So the first thing that comes to my mind is we'll have our workshop and we can think about it until then. But to think of some folks to invite for a meeting to begin to discuss this, and whether it's, a couple of members of the Parks and Rec Board, a couple of members of local master gardeners, and other folks who are just interested, who would be willing to do this, and start to form that coalition. Might be a good way to approach it here in Somerville, because you want the feeling of you want the local feeling of it. That's at least what we did before, in the other things I did.
Was it hard to begin accomplishing that?
Not at all. No, the interest is there. Let me take that back. The interest was there, yeah. And people just needed to be direct.
We have, as we mentioned in the plan, there was a lot of support
Yep.
for the tree canopy, taking and implementing new. It's just organizing that into willing to.
That's something as you know, I would be pleased to work on.
But yeah, no, I think that would be great to maybe start reaching out to some groups. And maybe we can discuss, like you said, discuss that further when we get a workshop
Yeah.
scheduled.
Yeah.
Kind of finalize what groups you want to reach out to. I mean, just from our discussions, we've got Master Gardeners, Park Foundation, obviously Audubon is a group the town has worked with before that I'm sure would be willing to support that as well. As they don't directly do trees, but
Right, well,
birds need trees, so.
Right.
And they work with us on other projects. So I think, if we kind of maybe keep brainstorming and, when we get that workshop schedule, which I want to try and do within the next month or so, just because we are getting some time frame.
Yeah.
Maybe have some of those ideas when we come to that as well. We can discuss that then as well, and then come up with a list of groups, and then maybe with all of us have actual contacts that we can start with those groups. And go from there. So that would be great.
Yep.
Yes.
Do you have a list of, you said you have lots of support and to shine through when you had the
I
program?
have the list of the folks who came to the meeting.
Do you have influential citizens, for instance?
Right,
Who
so I can.
can make a huge amount of difference?
Yeah.
Because otherwise, we're just looking at manpower through these boards, through these, and that's fine. You need to have, you can't do anything without the manpower or person
Yeah.
power, excuse me. And, but some influential people in the town, as I'm sure you had a lot of success with in Charleston, added weight to any of that.
yeah,
Direction.
you want people who have gravitas in the community, for sure.
If you could have, the president of the HOAs of different ones, that could be, presented or represented, because that would bring in a larger area of people. And these are the people that have moved here, excuse me, and appreciate the beauty of Somerville. And I've been asked, why are you letting them take that down and you're so picky about some of these other trees? And it's hard to.
Gotta answer
explain.
that one.
Yeah,
Okay, yeah, no, we don't have a huge number of contacts for HOAs because they change their terms pretty frequently. Some people get burnt out with that
Yeah.
quickly, but we do have a few of those contacts we can certainly reach out to as well. And I mean, it's something we could also, I think maybe we might want to get a core group first, like Danny was talking about, and then we could reach out to social media and other things to see if we have other interested individuals, just, that aren't necessarily affiliated with a certain group, but that this is something they want us.
Right.
That's right. And that core group can go to the HOA meetings and be on their agenda.
I feel like you need that core group to kind of get a plan in place and then.
Right.
And then reach out to a larger group so that when you reach out to the larger group, you actually have, things identified that they can help with rather than just trying to get
and I think,
people to agree on something.
The kind of people that we meet up on a Saturday, pick up crowd. That is more seriously.
So, but yeah, I mean, like I said, I think, so maybe the first step is to schedule a workshop.
Yeah.
Start with the planting areas, discuss that at that workshop and also discuss, who might be the stakeholders that we want to bring together.
Right. So if we begin thinking about that, hopefully we could have a good discussion when we meet for the workshop.
Okay, that sounds great.
and I think in general, if the public sees that something like this is going on, that they're encouraged. Because they see some of the things like, for instance, that Dominion has done. But if they see that we, as a group in town, are trying to better the situation, I think that would go far. In a positive way.
Yeah, and that's, again, these are things we can do without having to worry about funding sources right this second. And obviously, we will work toward, and I think also maybe if you get this group that's obviously concerned and is willing to put their own time and effort into it, maybe that shows council that this is something. that the
Right.
council support further as well. So, okay, well, that's where we'll start. And, we have been doing some tree inventory, with our own GIS capabilities, so I will continue doing that as we're able. Obviously, Nick is pretty busy, so it's hard to find time, to do that, just like Bill had trouble finding time to do it as well, but, it's something we can, kind of slowly work on. And, maybe with that group, we can find other folks who have the skills and the willingness to do that as well in their free time, and identify areas where we want to start with that. We have identified kind of a ranking of the parks that we want to start with. Obviously, we should start with the ones that are most street to the least street, but, you know, we've done Azalea Park pretty much. So, you know, moving on to those, and then when you get to the right of ways, it gets a little more difficult. but,
Right.
Eventually get that, that maybe something we need to contract out the right way, just for safety.
Good deal.
Jesse, was any money put in the budget for personnel, like in the urban forestry or anything like that at all?
Didn't have the plan adopted.
Right.
During the budget period, so I didn't really have the support to yet say, another person.
Mhm.
But I think with this support, and if we get some kind of momentum going with a citizen group, or, I think that could help the next round of budget, which usually starts in April or so, to kind of try and push that. Because, right now, as y'all well know, Nick is stretched pretty thin.
Yes, he is.
So we have very little time to actually do anything proactive for forestry management, because he's mostly reviewing tree permits.
Mhm.
So it's, certainly something, and we also, of course, would love to have actual personnel for, you know, pruning and
Mhm.
that sort of thing. The
Yeah.
Parks Department,
Absolutely.
the folks who are also pulled in 60 different directions. That, you know, go from putting lights in the trees to being trash cans to pruning trees. So,
Could I have a hard copy of this?
copy of just the recommendation?
Yeah, this, that we've been looking at, could I have I'm going to a garden club meeting tomorrow. It'd be a good time to have it in
So
hand.
I printed out just the recommendation section. It's obviously not the full.
Right, just 1 through 7.
Yeah,
but-
just the, start with the recommendations and goals. It goes through the 8 recommendations. So you can have this.
Okay, wonderful, thank you. I'm going to a garden club meeting tomorrow.
Okay.
It'd be a good thing to have in
Yeah,
hand.
that'd be great to have them on board as well.
Yes.
Yeah. Okay. Alright. Well, that's really all I had. Just kind of wanted to get y'all's input on where we should start, and I think this is a good start. So we'll look at our dates, we have going on, and maybe I may send out like a doodle poll, just because that's the easiest way to get everybody's input on what dates work for them for the workshop. And then we'll go from there.
Sounds good.
Okay.
Thanks.
Jesse, thank you.
Thank you, Jesse.
I wanted to, before we adjourn, wanted to bring up one more. Well, just a reminder to, it'd be good, that we knew the result of the question with regard to Time Limehouse's offer before the meeting. This was on the meeting, so this is still part of the agenda, and I won't trouble Jesse with it now. You'll be asking her about it later. The thing that surprised me was that we have to measure the sincerity before we make a decision, the level of sincerity. I was surprised at the reluctance to want to pay the money. Tell you the truth,
Yeah, and my thought is, I wondered. if
for the 2 to
that
3
was
fund.
something that's already in place.
Yeah.
Yeah, but that it wasn't really so much a marketing tool as this sort of debate sort of thing. This is what I'm already doing.
Well, he hasn't donated it yet.
I don't.
Okay, well, that's a good conversation one day when you have a minute. All right, is there any other questions, discussion, points of view? Do I have a motion?
Move to adjourn.
Second.
All those in favor of adjourning,
Aye.
opposed? We are adjourned.
Thank you, sir.
You